On October 10th, 1993, Philips Interactive Media published two The Legend of Zelda video games simultaneously, cementing their status as one of the most memorable video games of all time. In one of my older videos, I brought Morshu from Link: The Faces of Evil into the art style of Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom. Today, we're doing things the other way around. This is the law of equivalent exchange. I'm going to teach you how you can draw in the art style of the absolute peak of the Legend of Zelda series. That's right, we're talking about Zelda CDI. Hey everybody, my name is Thomas. Welcome back to Render Breakdown. Render Breakdown is a show where we study popular video game artworks, break down its art style, then try our best to replicate it in the end. Nobody asked for this episode, but I figured what better day to celebrate this historical artifact of a video game other than, well, today. So, let's just jump right into it. The Zelda CDI games are well known for their distinct pixelated art style, paired with some interesting animation choices. If we're talking purely about the number of hand-drawn frames, I think it's pretty impressive. While I'd hesitate to call it smooth, since I don't think this is the right term for it, the characters are very expressive and lively. Maybe even a little too much? Unique as it is, I can kind of see what they're going for. The art style reminds me of older classic animated films such as Disney's The Sword in the Stone or Ralph Bakshi's The Lord of the Rings. I genuinely think they share the same character design philosophies at its core. Look at these artworks side to side. Don't they just look similar? Jokes aside, if you look at the box art of the CDI games, you can see the characters drawn in a more professional way. And I think this is definitely the look the in-game graphics were trying to emulate. They're pretty rad, actually. One of the things that make the Zelda CDI art style stand out are the eyes. A lot of these characters' eyes are leaf-shaped. One thing you can't accuse Zelda CDI of having is same-face syndrome. These characters' faces and head shapes are varied, they're fun to look at, and exaggerated all over. If you're drawing in this style and your guy looks too normal, exaggerate a facial feature and see where it takes you. The colors are bright, almost neon looking, with little to no shading. This is likely more of a limitation with the CDI hardware. Honestly, the graphics are quite charming to me. There's such a unique sense of crudeness to these artwork that it kind of loops back around to looking kinda cool to me. Would I want to see more Zelda video games in this art style? Well, I mean, I won't be opposed to seeing a port just for the sake of preservation, you know, maybe we could put it on the Switch 2 or something, but it definitely is such a product of its time. A time capsule of Nintendo's first few steps into licensing their IPs to third parties. We're lucky to have things like the Super Mario Bros. Movie or, you know, the Nintendo World theme park, but we wouldn't be here if Nintendo didn't try and stumble with projects like, you know, the CDI games or even the other Super Mario Bros. Movie. In summary, here's a list of my observations of this art style's characteristics. Uniquely drawn pixel art. Leaf-shaped eyes. Exaggerated expressions and proportions. Lastly, bright colors. Unfortunately, I don't think making a material sphere for this would be very interesting to look at, but I mean, I made one, and yeah. I'm using Clip Studio Paint as my program of choice. You can basically use any other art program, but I'm choosing this because you can also animate within it. The first thing we're going to do is prepare our canvas. Set the canvas size to 384 by 240 pixels. By default, Clip Studio Paint doesn't really have a pixel art brush like Photoshop does with its pencil tool, so we're gonna make our own real quick. Basically, the idea here is we're making a brush with no pen pressure or anti-aliasing. Duplicate one of these default pens by right-clicking, Duplicate Subtool. Let's name it Pixel Brush. Click on the wrench icon here to edit our brush settings, then under the brush size, head on over to this icon right here. Turn off pen pressure. In fact, let's uncheck all of these. Head back to our tool properties, and let's turn off anti-aliasing on the brush by clicking on this jagged icon. There we go, now we have our pixel art brush. Make sure to set the brush size to 1 so we can draw pixel by pixel. If you're too lazy to do all this, I got you. You can download the brush in the video description down below for free, so yeah, go download that if you want. For the colors, I honestly just color pick from these existing sprites. Shout out to all the contributors at the Spriters Resource. And that's basically it for the most part. If you want to animate your scene, the basic gist here is that you will be animating at 10 FPS. This next segment is going to be a quick and crude tutorial on how to use Clip Studio Paint's animation tools, so if you don't use this program, feel free to skip to this timestamp below, but you know, you could also listen to me yap and stuff. Alright, head on over to Window, Timeline, make sure it's checked. Over here on our timeline window, click on this icon with the plus sign on it. It's the New Timeline button, and a window should pop up for settings. Keep the frame rate at 10, which is the most important bit here really. As for playback time, basically it's the length of the animation you're working on, so it depends on your project. Don't stress it too much because you can always adjust this later. But if you're not using Clip Studio Paint EX, which is the more expensive version of Clip, you're going to be limited to 24 frames. So there's that. Hit OK. Now we've got a timeline. You can see our existing layers are already on the timeline. So, okay, let's say we want to make Link blink. We have our base illustration of Link right here. Click on this icon here, the New Animation Folder button, and it should make an animation folder. Basically, the idea here is that you put each individual element of your scene into their own animation folders. So, you know, different characters should be in their own animation folders and stuff like that. So we'll rename this folder to Link by double-clicking it and typing Link. Then we drag our base Link illustration into the folder. Great, we've made our first animation cell. To me, it's really helpful to rename cells to numbers so they're easier to keep track of. So we're just going to go ahead and rename this layer to 1. Let's go down to a later point in the timeline by clicking on this area over here where the red highlight is. Let's say we want to make a new frame here. I'm going to duplicate the layer labeled 1 using Ctrl+J, which will make a new cell. You'll see that the new cell has been automatically renamed to 2. Anyways, now we can draw the next frame of animation we want to see. I'm just going to go over the eyes over here and redraw it to be midway blinking. Again, we'll go to a later point in the timeline, Ctrl+J again, and then now we can fully draw Link with his eyes closed. Back to a later point in the timeline, since we already drew the midway frame of Link opening his eyes, I want to reuse that frame. So we're going to right click on the timeline, and here you'll see numbers, which are the names of the cells in this animation folder. We're going to select 2 and bam, we've got our old halfway open-eyed Link back. Go to a later point, right click, select 1, and now we're back to Link with his eyes open. Now we can test the animation by hitting the play button. Ta-da! You just made an animation with Clip Studio Paint. Because this art style is so easy to replicate, I actually went ahead and drew a couple scenes from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom into the CDI art style, so I'm just going to go over them, the speed paints like a sizzle reel. This is me redrawing that classic scene from Breath of the Wild. This is one of the final memories you unlock. It's called Despair. It's that shot where Zelda cries out to Link. Pretty straightforward. I struggled a bit on how to make Zelda look nice, but figured, hey, maybe I shouldn't be making her look nice, you know? I experimented a bit with the background here using official background art from the CDI games, but ultimately settled with a screenshot from the actual scene itself in Breath of the Wild. But I limited the color palette to 158 colors to make it look sort of CDI-ish. I think it's much better to draw the backgrounds from scratch naturally, but I'm filming this video days before April 1st, so I gotta act quick and compromise. This is me redrawing official art from Tears of the Kingdom into the CDI art style. This is Link in his initial starter robes. My basic philosophy for redesigning characters is to keep everything as close to its bare-bones shapes as possible. The more details we have, the less it looks like CGI, in my opinion. And finally, this is me redesigning Beetle. I reference his face and nose mostly off of Mayor Cavendish. The biggest challenge for me here is drawing his gigantic backpack. But I think, ultimately, you know, I did an okay job. I don't know, what do you think? I also animated this off-screen to make it look a bit more presentable. And there we have it. Let me know what you think of all this. Did you think I did a good job or a bad job? Comment down below any tips you might have for this art style that I might have missed. But, you know, ultimately, this is supposed to be a joke episode that I threw together in a couple days for April Fools. I hope I April Fooled you good. I don't know. This is my first video doing some shit like this, but Thank you so much to these wonderful patrons. If you want to support the channel and download project files from Render Breakdown, this episode and the previous ones, as well as some other videos as well, you can go over to my Patreon and download them for $2. The next real Render Breakdown episode is still Persona, don't you worry. But I actually have a non-Render Breakdown episode coming out soon, so I hope you watch that one. I hope you like it as well, but we'll see. You'll see. But yeah, just, casting that stone out there. Now go forth and multiply. And by multiply, I mean go make your memes and, draw stuff in this art style. You are now weaponized. Go on, and until next time, ciao.